Hello again, it's Michelle. I am a surrogate for Giving Tree Surrogacy, sharing my stories. I thought maybe we could talk about where I'm currently at on my current journey first, and then we'll dive back into my previous video. So right now, I am still in the medical clearance process for my second journey with my new family. Everything went well at my original check at the clinic in California, except my uterine lining wasn't quite as thick as they wanted it to be. They wanted to be 8 millimeters, and I was sitting at, I think, 4.88 the first time. And then they started me on estradiol, which is a form of estrogen. And after a month, I was only at 5.88. So I only went up 1 millimeter. This happened a previous time during my medical clearance process. And every month I got 1 millimeter thicker until I hit that 8 millimeter mark again. So my body just needs time to rest and recover after my failed transfer. And we're all just being patient. I don't feel any pressure from anybody to make it as thick as possible, as fast as possible. I'm not scared to lose my surrogacy or anything. We're just being patient, which is a big thing that I've learned throughout this process. So right now, I'm currently waiting on my next cycle, and then I will start the estrogen again, and we will do another check. I did Google some things that I could possibly do to help with my uterine lining other than the estradiol that they put me on, which some things said like moderate exercise for 30 minutes. So I have my electric bike, and I'm gonna keep doing that, as well as using a heating pad on my uterus. And I have a portable one that I use for my shots from my last journey. So that's perfect, so I can plug that in and wear it as often as I need to. Never more than 30 minutes probably, but if I do that routinely throughout the day, during the time of the month that my uterine lining is thickening, I think that would help too. There's also a couple teas that were noted, as well as like fish oil and a couple other vitamins that I'm thinking about purchasing just to help kind of speed up that process and help my chances better than ever before. So that's where I'm currently at. It's just waiting on that medical clearance. Once my uterine lining is thick enough, we can move right into the legal process where we will sign the contract and I will be a contracted surrogate again. So last time on my video, I think I was talking about the actual birth of my first surrogacy journey, and I had just gotten to the point where I talked about how we were going to induce and then we ended up not needing to. So with my son, he waited 40 weeks and 5 days, and we had to schedule an induction because he was measuring really big, and we were already past the 40-day mark, and my doctor was really confident in his induction skills and how well it would go. And this being my first baby, I didn't really know what to expect. I hadn't had a lot of cramps or anything. I wasn't really dilated. I wasn't even a full centimeter when I went in that morning. So when I went in, we started the induction at 6:30 a.m. and by 6:30 p.m. my baby boy was born. So I had a 12-hour labor, and after 4 pushes, my son was born. So I kind of enjoyed the induction process because we got to pick what day baby was going to be born as long as it was less than 24 hours, as well as it kind of helped me mentally prepare instead of having on and off again contractions, not knowing is today really the day. They broke my water for me, so I knew when that was going to happen. I wasn't terrified I was going to wet myself in the middle of a Walmart. So for me, I really liked the induction process. I'm a very big planner in the first place, so being able to have that scheduled on the books was awesome. And when I got pregnant with the surrogate baby, we knew that my intended parents lived in China and that they were going to need to get their visas in order to come over. And we wanted to make sure that they could make it in time and be there for the birth. So when I talked to my provider about this, my OB, she said, yes, absolutely, we can schedule an induction. That would be what's best for the family, as well as long as baby is measuring well, and if baby is healthy and I'm healthy and there's no complications, we can do an induction again. So I knew a lot about induction going into that process. Sometimes there are surrogates who haven't had it done before and they feel nervous about kind of using modern medicine in order to jumpstart your birth process. But I didn't have any qualms with it because I've already done it once before. So I was excited about the induction process. Unfortunately, my IPs did not make it in time for the birth, and I didn't even need to be induced. So the day before my induction date, I actually went into labor naturally. I think we had intended on keeping the induction date because I'd already scheduled my time off. Even though we knew the parents weren't going to be there, I had scheduled time off, I had gotten babysitters, everything else was lined up, baby was healthy, and both the intended parents and my OB were okay with the induction continuing. But the day before, I started having pretty consistent contractions. I already had an appointment scheduled with my OB just to double check, measure and everything. We got to do another ultrasound, and while I was in office, I was already dilated to 4 centimeters. So they went ahead and they kept me and admitted me that same time, and I got to have baby boy that night. I don't know if the induction sped the process up, but I labored longer. I feel like my first beginning contractions were further apart because I could go like 10 minutes between contractions. But with my labor with my son, I felt like the contractions, the shorter time span happened much faster. I was having 5 minutes in between my contractions right away instead of that initial 10 minutes. But overall, the labor was pretty much the same, with as far as it goes from like 0 to 7 took several hours, but then 7 centimeters to 10 centimeters took less than 2 hours each. So like I was at 7 centimeters and they said, okay, we'll check you again in 2 hours. About an hour and 15 minutes later, I was telling my nurse, I'm like, I'm nauseous. I'm starting to feel a little lightheaded. I'm feeling a really big pressure, as everyone feels. And that's when she was like, okay, we'll go ahead and check you a little early. Yes, your 10 centimeters don't push. Let's wait till the doctor gets in here. And that's when the whole shebang really starts. So while you're originally in the hospital, you only have the one nurse typically checking on you and making sure that you're comfortable, helping you move positions, helping everything like that. And then once labor started, a whole flood of people came in. I'm talking doctors, 10 nurses. They had multiple people for both me and baby. So the birth went just as normal as like a normal birth does. It was unfortunate that my intended parents couldn't be there to see baby born, but we were sending pictures, videos as soon as everything was happening, and they were on their toes all night waiting to hear the good news. And baby boy was healthy. He was 6 pounds 11 ounces. So my son was 8 pounds 8 ounces. He was a big round boy, so 6 pounds 11 ounces was a very healthy weight. We were super excited. I think they originally were like guesstimating around 6 pounds, not quite that 11 ounce mark. They were saying he was going to be on the smaller side, so we were really happy with that 11 ounces added on to his 6 pounds. But he was only 2 pushes this time, so 4 with my son and 2 with surrogate baby, and he was right on out of there. So everything went really great. I did have one unfortunate circumstance when it came to my birth. My placenta was a little embedded, so it didn't slip right out like it did with my son, and they just had to pull it out instead. It didn't come out in one piece. They had to do several chunks, and then 3 weeks later, they discovered that they hadn't gotten all of it. One piece had been retained, so I had some retained placenta. We did a DNC, which went really, really well, super easy procedure, and then I ended up having a hysteroscopy to remove some scar tissue that had been left behind. But now my uterus is healthy and happy, and I know more about how that happens. It happened to my older sister, and she continued to have healthy pregnancies. I've heard other surrogates have a similar situation. Part of it can be the IVF medication causing a very thick, healthy uterus, so it makes that placenta extra sticky, which is what you want for baby to stick, but can have some unfortunate side effects like the placenta sticking. That could have been a way worse experience, and it wasn't that bad. It was just something that happened, and I'm so grateful for having a healthy birth and having a healthy baby and being able to continue with my journey. And now that I'm matched with my new family, I am more mentally prepared if that happens, but either way is completely fine with me as long as me and baby are both healthy. Because the intended parents weren't there, I was nervous that I was going to have to take on the responsibility of taking care of the baby until somebody came to gather. But they had a designated power of attorney and a nanny on the way as soon as I told them that I was in labor and the baby was coming. So they were there within 24 hours of birth. But my hospital has a nursery, so they asked me after baby was born, do you want to take baby up into your room, or would you like us to take him to the nursery and the nurses will take care of him there? And I hadn't really felt super connected to the baby. I wasn't like emotionally drawn to him. I didn't want to create a bond. And so in order to continue feeling that way, I thought it was best to have him stay in the nursery. And I know that intended parents can have their own preference on what happens, as well as other surrogate mothers might want that responsibility. For me, it was 1:30 in the morning after almost 24 hours of labor at this point, and I was exhausted. I had just had the placenta ripped out of me, and I immediately immediately flagged it off. I was like, nope, I know these nurses. I work for this hospital as a data entry specialist. I trust them. I know they'll take good care of baby boy. So they took the baby up to the nursery for me and let me go straight to sleep. I was wheeled up to my room. I think at that point it was 2:30 in the morning and I was plumb tuckered out, as they say. So I was grateful for the nursery and that opportunity to use that. But the designated power of attorney and the nanny arrived the following morning. So I went up there at 2:30 in the morning. It was that same day that they arrived and were able to pick up baby. I signed a bunch of papers and then went home, and they realized I needed more paperwork filled out. So I went back to the hospital and filled some more out. My OB had this understanding that I wanted to go home and rest. I had been through a birth before. I knew what I was doing. And so after going up to my room at 2:30 in the morning, she discharged me at 2 in the afternoon on that same day. So I was only in that hospital for another 12 hours. And then I was able to go home and be with my family and rest and recover there. My mom lives in the area, so she was able to come over and help me because I have my little donut pillow and all of my icicles and stuff like that. So she came over to help me just for the first day, because I do have a 7-year-old little boy to take care of as well. So she was there with me, which was really nice. The power of attorney was incredible. She was from Giving Tree Surrogacy. The nanny was wonderful. That baby boy was glued to her. Anytime he stirred, she was taking care of him. So I knew that he was in good hands until he was able to make it to his parents. I know they both ended up coming over to the United States eventually, I think within the month, and were able to be with him until he was able to go home. So that was super amazing. So a great first journey. I started a second journey with that same family about a year later, and they only had one embryo left, a little girl embryo, and we did everything the same. We had my medical clearance, we signed the contract, we went out for the embryo transfer, everything felt normal. I did all of my shots like normal. Unfortunately, the embryo didn't stick. I got very lucky my first time around, and the embryo did stick, and that's how baby boy was born. Going into the second journey, there was no doubt in my mind that baby would stick. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be pregnant here and now, and I'm going to carry this pregnancy to term. I'm prepared for the next 9 months. I know this family, I know what's going on. So when we got the news that my HCG did not go up after transfer, it was really heartbreaking, especially because I was already so close to this family and so excited to give them a baby girl. This was going to be their first daughter. So hearing that news that the HCG didn't go up was heartbreaking. And we even had a small glimpse of hope. So your HCG, if it's higher than a 4 or 5, they consider you pregnant, but they would typically want to see over 100 for that first blood draw. So while I was technically pregnant, I wasn't actually pregnant. Baby had not continued to grow. So there's ideas that baby had implanted but was not developing. And so they had me stop all medications. Whose fault is it? Was it the embryos or was it mine? That doesn't matter at this point. It was simply just, it didn't work and it didn't happen for me. So they called it a biochemical pregnancy. After we got the second HCG, which had dropped to a 4, that second time we gave it another 4 days. When that dropped to a 4, that's when we knew it definitely didn't stick and I was no longer pregnant. They had me stop all medications, and within 2 weeks I had a normal period, and we had to end our journey there. We had several weeks to let the parents grieve, as well as let myself feel all the emotions that came with it. A lot of it was disappointment. I was trying hard not to be too disappointed in myself. I know that what my body is capable of. I have a healthy baby boy myself and a healthy baby boy in their family, so that I know I have a healthy body that is capable of carrying children, and sometimes this just happens. IVF isn't 100%. So I was trying really hard not to take the blame. I took the week off from work just to kind of sit with it. I didn't have any really negative side effects when it came to my own physical health. It was all just mental. I wanted to take a break from regular life and sit with these feelings so that it didn't surprise me later. I'm very big on, if I'm feeling negative emotions or something bad has happened, I want to give myself time to grieve. I like to spend a day in bed and let myself feel all of the things instead of pushing it away and having to live life as per usual. So I did the same thing, even though it wasn't my baby. This was still a loss. for me, especially because I had grown so close to this family over the last 2 years, and especially because it was their last embryo. So at this point, we had to grieve the loss of this baby, as well as try to decide whether or not they wanted to do another egg retrieval and try again. They originally only had the 3 embryos. So I had one, the mother had her own, and then this third one was the one that we lost. So they didn't have any embryos left, and they actually decided not to try for more. They decided they didn't want to do another egg retrieval, and I was happy with whatever decision they wanted to make. This is their family, and if they wanted to go through the financial and physical trials and tribulations of IVF again, I was ready to stay with them, even if it meant waiting several months for egg retrieval. But they decided no, that they were happy with the 2 boys that they got from IVF, and that they were happy with the family that they have, and grateful that I was willing to try again. I had up to 6 months after the birth of last baby boy to talk to them, and then if they wanted to cease contact, that was it. So since they haven't reached out, I haven't reached back out to them. I want to give them their privacy, and I know that our journey has come to an end. I don't really think about baby boy a lot. I'm never wondering where he is or how he's doing. Like I said, I never really had that emotional connection to him to the point of like maternal feelings. It never affected me that way. I knew, obviously, I signed up for IVF. I had the embryo transfer. This isn't my baby. This isn't my kid. But mentally, I think I built like a wall around that. It was like, this is not my baby. This is somebody that I'm becoming friends with because of IVF, because I'm giving them a baby. I wasn't their friend before this. We're not gonna see each other for barbecues in the summer. Like, we have very separate lives. They live in an entirely different country. I live in an entirely different country. We both have very busy lives. So we got to have this magnificent journey together, and it's okay that that came to an end. And I hope that they're doing super well. I hope baby is doing super well. And I hope that they're happy and that they have a good, happy, content feeling when they look at their children, just the same way that I do when I look at my son. I'm with a new family now, and I will be, from what I remember, I believe I'm giving them their first kid between the 2 of them. So I'm super excited about that journey as soon as we can get it started. Right now I'm in between cycles. I'm off of estrogen, so I'm not dealing with the bloating that came with it. I don't feel quite as tired as I did before. There are other tribulations that come with the withdrawal of estrogen. One thing is I'm really sweaty all the time. It feels like I'm constantly running a marathon. When I Google it, the withdrawals for estrogen are similar to like the symptoms of menopause, which makes sense because it's a lack of estrogen and it's why you're going through menopause. And so I'm kind of going through like a mini menopause right now, which has been an experience. Not worse than pregnancy, not worse than anything that I'm not willing to put myself through. So I am mentally prepared and physically prepared to go through getting on estrogen again and getting my lining checked again. I've got plenty of time off saved up with my job. I have a good relationship with my women's clinic, so as soon as I start my next cycle, I will notify them. I start estrogen the next day and I stay on it for 3 weeks. And after those 21 days, that's when I'll go in and get my uterine lining checked. So I'm excited to do all of the heating pads and the moderate exercise for 30 minutes every day and any other things that they recommend for me. But yeah, I think that's everything for this video, so I'll catch you next time. Giving trees surrogacy.